What's up, y'all? So last time I made a video, I don't remember how long ago it was, but last time we worked on the file node, and then we tried to imitate or build out the functions that was implemented by the node interface. So now what we're going to do is now we're going to work on the files folder, where it's just going to be a folder called files, which will have the file class that will actually be used in the program. But before we do that, we just need to add some comments here. And then for the contents, okay. So that's just for the file node. Now that this is done, what we then need to do is we need to create the file system. We need to create the file folders. So let's just do that right now. File.ts, and then let's rename this into just file. Okay, so in this file folders, we're going to have two files. We're going to have the Java file, the file, and then the file interface. But because this is TypeScript, well, this is JavaScript, we're just going to call the file to be index.ts, and then the file interface to be actually called file interface.ts. So for the file interface, the file interface will just show the functions that we want the file to implement. So this will first be actually, well, yeah. Okay, so first thing we need to do is say export default class, not class, export default interface file interface. And then what this will do is just say the stuff that we want to implement. First, we want to be able to get the file name, so we'll just create a function called get file name, and then we want that function to return a string. Then we're going to create another function called set file name, which will just be void. Then we want to have another function called get file path, which will be string. It's returning a string. Then we want to be able to set the file path, and then to just be file path void. And then next we wanted to be able to get the file size. And file size will be returned using a string. And then we want to do set file size. We don't want we don't want ourselves to calculate the file size, but rather what we want is for the program, the class itself, to calculate its own file size. So every time we call this function, it would just initialize, well, not really initialize, it would just update the size of its file, if that makes sense, the size of itself. Because we don't want to say, okay, set file size to this, because then that creates a data breach. Not really, but you get to what I'm trying to say. So now we want to do get states that it was created. Okay, so get states created, and this should just return string, and then we should say get dates modified. It should return string as well. And then we also want to put, actually, date and time modifier will be the same thing. And then we want to be able to turn this object into JSON. To JSON would just be JSON it to be key string, and then bless me, it would just return the JSON object. So the next thing we need to do is for now this will be it. Okay, so now that we have this file interface up and running, now we will need to import two things. First, what we'll have to do is we'll have to import file interface. Next we want to import file node. From file node. Now we want to create our export default class file, and then we needed to extend to file node, and then we needed to implement file interface. So now it's giving us an error because it's not doing what the file interface wants it to do. So to fix that issue, we just do command space implement, and then we can go from there. Method not implemented, so on and so forth. So now that really just interests me. So when the file node did that, node interface, when it was implementing the node interface, it was giving us an issue. It was not giving us like this is giving us. Like this one gave us so clean, but why didn't this one give us so clean? Is this still a file? It's an interface as well, so what's the difference? Export default interface, node interface. Export default interface, node interface. So I don't understand, bro. But that's not the point. We're not thinking about that right now. Okay. Alright, I like how clean it is. It's just wonderful. Okay. Oh, it's not clean actually. I just saw it. Oh, it just did. Oh, actually, it is clean. I'm tripping, y'all. I'm tripping. Oh, it's because of the way we set it up. Because we set it up like curly brackets, it came out like this. That's facts. That's real. Okay, so what do we do? So first, we need to create a constructor. So we need to have, we'll call this export type file params, and we'll make it equals to this. It will give us an error for now, but for now, let's just do file node. Let's check this file node params. Okay, so we're not naming it the same thing. Dang. So we need to be able to have 4 things when we want to initialize this constructor. First, we need the file name. This is going to be optional because then we can set the file name ourselves. Then we're going to need the contents. Contents would be string. Contents will be optional, but it will be either string, or yeah, it will be this string or array string. Let me actually just put array string to make everything simple. Array string. Okay, that's the only type we can accept, either string or array string, because array string will signify lines and string will signify a normal string that we need to turn into array string. Okay, so and then next we need to have the path of the file. This will be optional as well. This will just be string. And then the next thing we will need to do is we will then, yeah, this will be it for now. So now let's implement this. So we need to create our constructor. So the constructor would just be constructor. We would just say params, actually, we didn't go super. So super needs to be called at the top of the line. Okay, so let's do some thinking. So super needs to be called at the top of the line, but the only problem is super can be this is where it gets complicated. Okay, so let's go to file node real quick. We need to look at something. File node params contents. Oh, sweet Mary Jesus. Okay, so we are in luck. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Does it need to be called at the top of the line? Let's check that out. So let's see if it gives us an error if we call super. Let's just put this. And then, oh my bad, I need the input. Contents. Oh, I gave it error. No, that meant lines. And then I put const, and I just put the stuff we're getting from your file name, contents, file name, contents, path. Oh, look at that. So it doesn't need to get called that type of line, which is a good thing, because now we can do this. We can say let's answer equals to, we'll leave it as this for now, because what we would then want to do is we want to say this will either be a string or array string, so TypeScript can know in here at the time. Then we want to say if contents instance, no, I didn't spell it right. If contents instance of array string, if contents is an instance of array string, what we would then need to do is set actual contents equals to actual, this would just be string to save everybody's time. Actual contents, it will be equals to contents dot no, actually, so okay, that's pretty good. Contents dot, let me just put this brackets, contents dot for each. So now we're doing it str. What we want to do here is we want to add actual contents plus equals to str, because str is a string. Remember that. So that's what we're doing. If it's an array string, we want it to add to the actual contents. So actual contents would be this. Else, what we done? Else if contents. But we don't have to have the else is. We can just say actual contents will be equals to contents. Because if it's not, an array string, then it would just be a string. So then this is where we can just put actual contents as this. Then first we need to check if the contents is empty. So to check if the contents are empty, we would just say actual contents dot is empty. I can't do that. So we would just say if contents equals to this. What we then want to do is we want to do this. Else we want to do actual contents. That's it. That's the constructor right there, right? And then when we do that, the next thing we will need to do is we have supered it. Then we want to call set file size. No, let me do it correctly. What? Can I do this? Is that possible? I thought I did that. Get file size. How is there a? I'll check that out later. Please set file size. It's gonna give me an error, but I thought I implemented it. So let's see. Set. I didn't do it. I talked about it, but didn't do it. Set file size, and then it would just be void. And then it's giving us an error, so let's look around the error. We would just say set file size. We don't want anything from there, so we'll just say return void, and it would say throw new error method has not been implemented. We'll just put that. Okay. We'll call it the self file size, because what is it supposed to do? It's supposed to be setting the file size. Okay, and then now that we have done that, now we need to start implementing some of these classes. So for now, this is how we would implement it. This would change later once we create the metadata classes and stuff. But for now, this is how we're going to do it. First, we're going to have a neat thing called name. Name will be a string, just to let y'all know. And then we're going to have a thing called path. Path will be a string as well. So right here, we would just call this dot file name equals this dot name equals to this dot file name. I'm tripping out. This is this dot file name. We can do this dot generate ID. Generate. actually, yeah, generate node ID. So for this generate node ID, we're going to give it we're going to override it. The reason that is because now that we're actually working in the files, what we have to do is we have to, actually no, we're not going to override it. Okay, we're just going to have a static default file name, and then we'll just set that to default file name. And then we would just set that equals to file dot default file name. That's literally it. And then the next thing we would need to do is then we would need to set the path, which would just be this dot hashtag. Path would be equals to path and then default path. And then default path would just be a slash to indicate that it's from the root directory. Actually, it would not be a slash to indicate that it was from the root directory. Alright, guys, so it's looking pretty good, so now we would just need to we're not going to implement these functions yet. No, we are not. What we're going to do is that we're going to end the video on this, because the next video is where we will implement the metadata, because we have to start from this to understand why we need the metadata to begin with. So next video we will implement the metadata, and after the metadata is when we will start using the metadata on the file class, because we cannot use it yet until all of this works. Alright, so I will see y'all later. Peace.